Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Giga Metals Corp. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you are interested in meeting with Giga Metals, please click on the Schedule Meetings tab found in the platform navigation bar. You'll be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Mark Jarvis, CEO and Chairman of the Board of Giga Metals Corp., which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol HNCKF, and on the TSXV under the symbol GIGA. Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate that. I just want to say welcome to everybody that's attending this meeting. Now, I'm going to assume with the audience that you've never heard this story before. Some of you may have, but I plan to get through the presentation fairly quickly and then get to the Q&A, just so you know. So I like this picture. This is a picture of our camp at the Turnagain project. That's the Turnagain River. And you can see our airstrip beside our camp. It's about a kilometer airstrip. And the reason I like this is, we're talking about something that is going to be an open pit mine. And this just shows that the terrain is ideal for that type of mining. It's also, easy terrain for road building. And, there is a road into the property, but it's going to have to be upgraded considerably to actually build a mine here. This is a standard disclaimer. We were very encouraged earlier this year to do a transaction at the project level with Mitsubishi Corp. Mitsubishi Corp is one of the largest companies in Japan. It's an enormous company. It's also the largest commodities trader in Japan. And they've got a model where they like to take a minority interest in a project, help to get it built. They don't want to operate the mine. They just want to help get it built. And they're interested in being minority shareholders in producing mines ultimately. And they've done this successfully many times. So they've got minority interests, typically 20 to 25% at the end of the day, in mines all over the world. And I'll also say about Mitsubishi, they are a joy to work with. They are really good partners. I very much enjoy the corporate culture at Mitsubishi. So we're a small company with an extremely large deposit, and really, truly one of the giant deposits of the world. Our PEA, an engineering report, modeled producing an average of 33,000 tons per year of nickel over a 37-year mine life. The PFS that we're currently working on, which can include only our measured plus indicated resources, is probably going to model plus or minus a 40-year mine life. So truly a giant project. We're in a good jurisdiction, and we're what I would describe as semi-remote. We've got some infrastructure challenges at the beginning, but they're all capable of being overcome. And the government in British Columbia and in Canada has signaled quite a bit of interest in helping with infrastructure to help develop critical minerals projects. And we've been in discussion with both of them. So it's the wind is in our sails, shall we say. We've got a new mineral resource statement. So in the measured plus indicated categories, we've got 1.5 billion tons of ore in an open pitable configuration. By the way, the strip ratio life of mine is 0.2 to 1. It's a tiny strip ratio, which is very good. And this is a plan view of the Ultramafic Intrusive. And I'm showing this as, the entire intrusive is about 8 kilometers end to end. And then within the blue lines is contained the resource that we were looking at before. This deposit is wide open. And we think that the rocks that are prospective, we've drilled maybe 20 or 25% of what's there. So we've got drill holes 4 or 5 kilometers away from our resource that are quite similar to what's in the resource. So wide open. This is already a giant deposit, but it could be even larger. One of the beautiful things about this project is how simple the flow sheet is. A short, simple flow sheet translates into very low technical risk. And so, crush it, grind it, float it. This is very much like a copper porphyry type of deposit, in terms of how the processing goes. And in fact, if you look at the processing circuit, there's different reagents in the, metallurgical circuit, but it really does look like, a copper porphyry operation. If you look at the financial model, it also looks like a copper porphyry. So just a very simple, straightforward processing. That's one of the reasons that Mitsubishi got interested. Also, they're very interested in the fact that we already, just as this model now would be, among the lowest carbon intensity nickel mines in the world. We've got a pathway with some work we're doing with our tailings and research we're doing with the University of British Columbia to get all the way to carbon neutral, because our tailings will absorb CO2 from the atmosphere and convert to carbonate minerals. And so the CO2 is locked away in mineral form for hundreds of millions of years. This is a beautiful concentrate that we can make. Very low in deleterious elements. It's a premium product that any smelter would love to buy. Now, there are also other options. You can sell to a smelter, which is what we're going to model. It's what we modeled in the PEA. It's what we're going to model in the PFS, because that's a market that exists today. But this is a product that's very amenable to something called pressure oxidation, where you can convert or concentrate into sulfate. You can convert it into MHP. I think ultimately that's a processing route that's going to come into play, because it's a more direct route to the cathode for the battery business than sending it to a smelter. But it's not the market that exists today. So that's why we're not modeling it. It's just extremely interesting, I think, because I think the future market is going to be around, pressure oxidation style refineries. So here's a summary: 33,000 tons a year on average. Now this is a project built in stages. So the first stage takes care of all of our infrastructure issues, and as I've said, we're hopeful that we'll get some government support with some of the infrastructure. But just as we did it, US 1.4 billion capex for phase 1, and then we double production in phase 2 with another $500 million. So big project. I mean, $2 billion is of course a significant amount of money. But our net operating costs of $281 a pound, life of mine, at the site gate. So pretty good project. And this just shows our projected yearly metal production. And as you can see, some years we get up to 45,000 tons per year of nickel. I think this map is already out of date. I mean, there's so many gigafactories being announced in North America, and essentially, where's the nickel to support these gigafactories? So, our estimate is that based on this map, there is 250 to 450,000 tons a year of new nickel supply needed just for these battery projects. And that range depends on how many of these projects are going to be nickel-based chemistries, and some of them will also be LFP type batteries, which contain no nickel. And LFP is an excellent technology. It's an excellent battery, but it doesn't have anything like the range of a nickel-based chemistry. So good for sort of inexpensive little commuter cars, taxis, buses, that sort of thing. And here's the known nickel projects that are in some phase of development. The ones in green are the ones that have targeted with their engineering, including ours, that have targeted class 1 nickel suitable for batteries. The ones in blue have targeted ferronickel, in other words, a combination of nickel and iron, which would be suitable for the stainless steel market. Now, these projects may change and they may decide to address the battery market, but to date, with their engineering at least, they have not. This is an interesting chart. I mean, nickel has historically been quite volatile, and the black line is in inflation-adjusted dollars, current dollars. And you can see every once in a while the nickel market goes crazy. Are we at the beginning of a phase like that? I don't know, but it's just kind of interesting the way nickel trades. And this just shows where we are on the carbon emission intensity, just based on our PEA engineering. We're at the low end. Our path to carbon neutrality is a combination of assuming, right now we're assuming that we're going to have a diesel mining fleet, at least in the PEA. If that were to shift to an electric fleet, which people are working on, it does not yet exist, which is why we didn't model it. But I think it's probably going to exist in the next few years. If you could switch to an electric fleet, you get your carbon intensity down to less than 1-to-1, less than a ton of carbon per ton of nickel produced. And then if you factor in the CO2 sequestration that'll take place in our tailings, we can get down under carbon neutral. So it could be extremely interesting. And this is the way it's going to go. We're currently working on the PFS. We're currently expecting that in July. A week ago, I would have said June, but there's always something that comes up to delay, and it's going to be July at this point. The next step will be, once we finish our PFS, we'll submit a project description, and that will kick off the formal environmental assessment, and then we'll start working on full feasibility. Our board of directors is well connected with capital markets, but also I just want to point out a couple of our directors in particular. Martin Vidra, our president and director, had a career with Sherritt, which is a Canadian nickel and cobalt producer. They've got a mine in Cuba, but they refine their products in Alberta at a refinery there. And Martin is an engineer, but he also, during the latter part of his career at Sherritt, sold nickel and cobalt to end users. So we're trying to put together another strategic partner. We've got Mitsubishi. We would like to sell another piece of the project to another strategic investor to carry this all the way to shovel ready. Martin is leading that effort because he knows, it seems like he knows everybody in the world. Also, Robert Morris, who's on our board, 2 weeks before he joined our board, he retired from Vale, the giant Brazilian iron ore and base metal company. And at Valley, he was senior vice president in charge of worldwide sales of base metals, copper, nickel, cobalt, but also precious metals. A huge portfolio ranging from $5 to $8 billion a year. So Robert also knows everybody. And this is a picture of our market capitalization. We've got some free trading warrants out there. That's all the details of that. So I think I'm going to open it up to questions. I've got a question. Do you have a timeline for phase 1 and 2? Let me just get back. Well, the next phase, I mean, everything depends on money. And so, I don't specifically have a timeline yet. What we're hoping to do, the next phase, which is full feasibility, a lot of geotechnical work on site, and plus pushing this thing through the environmental assessment, we estimate that that's going to cost about $50 million. And so we're hoping to close a deal with the next strategic by the end of this year. That's our goal. And if we can do that, then we can be starting on all the work we need to do, next summer in 2024. And once we start on that, it'll be about a 3-year process to get to shovel ready. So that's interesting. What are your key milestones to the end of the year? Well, the first milestone is publishing our pre-feasibility study. That's going to be a hugely important step. That will allow all of the strategics that we're talking to get a very granular and detailed view of this project, so that they can analyze it with more confidence. So first of all, the PFS, and then the second milestone, hopefully, we'll be signing up a new strategic to help us finance this project, this giant project. I've got another question. Are we likely to see volatile nickel prices again this year, or have they settled? Well, as they say, nothing is harder to predict than the future. Nickel is a relatively thin market, and so it does tend to be more volatile than, say, copper. Copper is something like 9 times the volume of nickel. The answer is I don't know, and it doesn't matter that much to me. What matters, is what will the nickel price be 5 years out, 10 years out, and so forth. And I have a lot of confidence that nickel prices are going to be robust over that time scale, because there's so much demand from the battery business, and there simply isn't enough nickel on stream to supply that demand. So, the price has to go higher, in my view. In the next few years, it could be a slight surplus or a slight deficit this year or that year, but nothing major. The question: can you speak to your ESG initiatives and First Nation support? ESG, everybody talks about it. Very few people actually do it. We've been supporting research into CO2 sequestration at our project for years now, and so we're kind of more into walking the walk than talking the talk. And the question was also about First Nations. We have good relations. We're actually very lucky, specifically where we are, and with the Tahltan and the Kaska are the primary First Nations that we deal with. Both of them are business friendly. Both of them are doing very well out of the mining business. And in general, the majority opinion amongst the elders there is that economic development is good because it keeps young people in the territory, because they've got excellent jobs, really well-paying jobs, and in the wintertime they can go on vacation in Hawaii. But they're not moving away, and that's important to a lot of the elders. There's a question, how are the conversations with strategic investors going? Who are you talking to? Well, I can't specify the companies that we're talking to, but I can tell you we're talking to major mining companies. We're talking to automobile manufacturers, OEMs, and we're talking to battery companies. And there is a great deal of interest in this project. It's very helpful that Mitsubishi is involved already, because they all know that somebody that's capable of doing a due diligence has done an exquisitely detailed due diligence into this project, and we passed muster. My understanding is that Mitsubishi looked at 26 different nickel projects worldwide before settling on us. I guess, just trying to see if there's any more questions there. I'm not seeing any more questions. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up then. Thank you very much for participating, and if you want to know more, you're free to make an appointment and we can talk one-on-one. Thank you very much.